Accolonn. How you doing, bro?
How you doing, man?
Not bad at all. What is your question?
Okay, so my question starts with a statement. So there are many new projects from big companies at the moment, which are worked on, and not many, if none, of them are actually RTSs. And given this situation, but also given the successes of some RTS games recently, like Age of Empires, not Warcraft 3 fronted, I'm not talking about that. What is your opinion on this, like some sort of dead genre, since there are many people in the gaming community, even younger people actually, searching for some of these games, albeit in mobile form sometimes, and in a much lighter type of gameplay, like some sort of casual gameplay. But what is your opinion on this genre? What do you think will happen with it?
All right, so I'm a huge fan of RTS. For those of you that don't know, RTS stands for real-time strategy games. It's those sort of top-down building games where you build your city and, you know, build towers and defend yourself. Warcraft. So I'm a huge fan of RTS games. I think I'm in general, I'm more of a fan of the evolution of RTS games. You know, you now get RTS games that play more as simulation games. If you go to things like Frostpunk, for example, which is an RTS, which is absolutely phenomenal in the way that it tells the story. I love that. But I think RTS have forever been relegated to the indie scene and will almost never again be a AAA game. And there is a reason for it. AAA gaming companies make their money off of billion-dollar franchises. It's basically what they bank on. If you look at AAA gaming companies, how many games do most AAA gaming companies come up with every single year in terms of new IPs? Many, right? Most AAA companies come up with maybe one game every 3-4 years, right? So for them to make money, they need that title to bring in billions of dollars. It needs to be a billion-dollar title. Otherwise, well, they go downhill fast. I have often said that I think a better business strategy would be to come up with multiple titles a year of million-dollar franchises rather than billion-dollar franchises. They don't seem to agree. From Ubisoft all the way through to EA and Activision, they bank on those single releases carrying the day. RTS is not that. The RTS gaming industry or gaming market share is small at best. It's never been very large. It's definitely not for the vast majority of gamers, but it does have a pretty solid group of gamers that play it. Now, this is perfect, I think, for our indie studios, because RTS games tend to be easier to make, because graphic fidelity doesn't have to be as high when you have a sort of top-down approach and limited sort of scroll in, scroll out. The games can be a lot more cartoony and a lot more stylized. It doesn't have to be ultra realistic unless you're making something like Age of Empires or Frostpunk or something like that, right? But Frostpunk is also made by 8-bit studios, which is actually on the larger side of the indie studios out there. Ultimately, I think this is perfect for them. Frostpunk ended up making I think the last time I saw it ended up making it sold, I don't want to lie to you, but I think it sold almost 10 million copies at $25 or $20 a pop, right? So I think the game was $20 and they sold almost 10 million copies of the game to date. So they made a fuck ton of money, right? It's not like they didn't make bank on that game, but they didn't make billions. And that's really what AAA companies want. They want those games to make billions. You're not going to get that with an RTS, and that's why they're not going to touch it. It's actually one of the reasons I think the AAA industry will slowly but surely die in time as the indie development studios start picking up. The indie landscape is getting better and better all the time. The only people right now in the gaming industry that is actually moving gaming forward appears to be indie developers. AAA companies are playing it safe all the time. Every game that comes out of a AAA studio is safe. They only do what is expected. They only do enough to keep people a little bit happy, and that's it. They don't make massive moves. They don't change fundamentally the way things work. And then you go to indie games, and they sort of just, they're not scared to come up with a brand new wacky idea and just put it out there and be like, well, let's hope someone plays this, right?
It's interesting that you said that, like with the scared part, and also with like the millions and billions difference between the games. So I have a friend that works solely on an RTS game. We both work at Ubisoft. He's on a
nice.
higher scale than me in the company, but
Okay.
he works on that game in his free time. And looking at him and how he develops his game, I can see like no fear in him. If he fails, whatever. He
Yeah.
has also less risk than Ubisoft, to be honest, at some point. But looking at how like my company works and at the game that I work, they are so fearful, especially when it comes to social media. And that's going back to the Twitter, because you discussed earlier about the Twitter. They care so much about that because they live in that world. Although we live in the real world, they live on Twitter and so on. So even though I hate Twitter, I don't have a Twitter. That's why I'm not active on social medias. But I don't know. I don't want to say they love it. I don't want to say that. I think they hate it too.
Yeah.
But as you said, like, it is what it is. They're obsessed with it.
I mean, look, I hate Twitter, and yet I'm obsessed with it because it's part of my brand. I have to be on Twitter. Now, I also use Twitter to be a complete and utter dickbag, which is fun. So in that regard, I don't hate Twitter. But then again, I don't have to worry about 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 employees that have to be paid at the end of every month. Whereas for a company like Ubisoft, they don't have a choice. If a game fails at Ubisoft, considering they don't bring out millions of games a year, right? A game is a massive investment for a company like Ubisoft. What are the budgets of a game like Assassin's Creed? Easy.
Can't even imagine.
Easy. We're looking at 30 million. Easy for a game like Assassin's Creed, right? If it's not higher. I know there are games that sort of go to the 50, 60, 70 million dollars.
There are also many games that have many a lot of money put in them that you don't even get to see. They're cut right before it appears to you. Sometimes they are leaked. Indeed, we had a couple of games leaked recently.
Yeah.
Usually the people that leak those don't get fired, so don't think that. I mean, if it's someone low on the company that leaks a game, he can get fired.
Yeah.
But if it's someone on a higher scale, which usually happens, they usually leak the game. They don't actually get any repercussions for that.
Yeah.
But there are many games that are cut. We had so many games recently that were cut. You can't even imagine, and we lost so much money, and that's adding to the fear that they have whenever they're releasing a new game, because that game has to cover all the losses from the other games. So there are many costs to that. It's not just the cost of production for one game.
No.
But looking like at the RTS genre, like I don't know what to say about that. I love RTSs, as you said. I really want to see them strive, even in a mobile form. I think that they would do great in a mobile form sometimes. Like depending on the game,
Mobile, fuck no. That's where you and I are going to disagree 100%. Fuck mobile. Mobile is good for two things: texting people and calling people, and both of those things are in question. Maybe we don't even need to text and call people, but definitely not for gaming. Fuck that noise. I hate mobile games.
I really get you. I was like that before. I'm a PC master race, but spending so much time on the road, like from work and home and so on, I actually started looking at the phone differently. So maybe it's like the difference in the situations there.
You see, I can't even do it. A while ago, we didn't have power, right? My power cuts every once in a while. My government runs out of electricity, and then we have power cuts. And so I decided to install a tower defense game, because what else am I going to do when there's no fucking power? So I installed the game. I have no power. Remember, I have fuck all to do. It's late at night. It's dark as shit, so I can't even read. I literally only have my phone. I lost it for about 5 minutes, and I was like, fuck this. I hate the play. I hate everything. Screw this. And I just sat there for an hour and a half in complete darkness. I mean, the power came back on, came to my PC, and started playing games. So I'm anti-mobile as much as they come. Although going through my emails, you will think that no one knows that, because I get emails literally every single day from mobile companies going, oh my god, we love your content, we can't stop watching it. We think this mobile game will be perfect for you. And it's like, dude, if you've watched my content, you will know there is no such thing as a perfect mobile game for my fucking content. But, you know, people have different strokes, different folks. Everyone loves what they love. I'm not going to take it away. You're a gamer, you're a gamer. If you want to play on mobile, go for it. I personally can't. But I think RTS is one of the few things that can work on mobile if done well, because there aren't as many moving parts. So I can definitely see mobile being good for the mobile, not mobile, but RTS being good on mobile, and it tends to be that most RTS games come out on mobile because it is such a good sort of game for the platform. That said, I think indie games are quite heavy on RTS. You know, there's a lot of RTS survival games coming out and a lot of RTS simulation games coming out. And sort of like the RTS genre is there, but it is going to exist purely on the indie landscape because there isn't as much risk for, like, your friend, who, if the game fails, it's literally just his time that he wasted. He doesn't have, 10 employees that he needs to worry about, or 1,000 employees that he needs to worry about. He also doesn't have to worry about all the scrapped content that he has to pay for and recuperate as a result of this. And ultimately, I do think it's a inflicted wound, because AAA companies want to go above and beyond. Every single time with a new game, their games fail more often, because if the game doesn't meet that incredibly high standard that they set for themselves, it's a fail, and fuck it, we're not going to go with it. Even though when you look at the biggest games ever, right? You look at Fortnite, which is an absolute monstrous game. Yeah, it was indie. It was a risk, and they took it, and it blew up. You look at PUBG. PUBG came from a developer that had no real experience, and still that game blew up. And then you look at AAA games, and it's rare that one of their games blow up the way that indie games blow up. And there's a reason for it. Indie games push forward. Indie games are constantly trying to push the envelope of what is, normal, what we play, because they can. Whereas the AAA have basically put themselves into this trap where unless the game can bring in billions, it's not worth playing.
They also live in a bubble, like some sort of bubble, and if that bubble breaks, they think that it's gone. Like, they think that the company, if it fails once, like big time, they kind of do fail as a company, and they destroy their reputation and so on. Yeah. But I don't really know if one big fail succeeded by one good game will actually be that bad. They are afraid to take risks. That's the truth, I mean,
they have to be. If they release a game and it fails, the shareholders fuck off.
Yeah.
If the shareholders fuck off, the company goes bankrupt. Because remember, for every shareholder that sells these shares, the company has to pay that money back to the shareholder. If the shareholder wants to let go of its shares, it's the company that has to pay that out. It's one of the reasons Elon Musk not long ago warned investors and said, look, the price for Tesla is too fucking high. You guys are crazy. Our stock should not be trading this high. And then what did Elon do? The smartest thing he could do. He sort of sold a bunch of his own shares in the company and banked out in case the market turns and suddenly Tesla is left having to pay billions upon billions of dollars in shareholder fees that it does not have, because the company isn't worth what the share suggests it is.
That was also because his shares were expiring soon and he had to pay the taxes.
He was actually advised by what's the guy's name? Oh my god, what's the guy's name? The dude who foresaw the 2008 crash,
Michael Burry.
Michael Burry reached out to Elon Musk and he was like, dude, do it now. Tesla's stock is going to implode and you're going to be the one left holding the bag, having to pay back investors. So liquidate your stocks now. At least I think he said 30% of your stocks, liquidate it now and get out. So that if Tesla goes belly up because the investors are over betting on your company, you can get out. So the markets are also a big reason for these corporations not being willing to take risks, because one bad game can mean the end of your company, because shareholders have no interest in the games that you make. They only really give a fuck about the bottom line, like how much money did they make from this game. So that sort of makes sense. Colo,
Yeah, I get it.
Anything else before we get to the rest of the people?
No, that's what I want to say. I think the question is answered. I don't want to hold you here so you can answer. I just want to say that I love the stream. I've been an acolyte of the beard for 1 year and 6 months already, and I hope I'll be for 2 times as that.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Colo. Take care of yourself, bro.